Birth Undisturbed, a series of 12 or so images that have a particular relevance to the idea of a woman giving birth in an undisturbed way. So starting off the series was a really big deal to me because I was very nervous, but also with a very strong sense of determination as well. It was to take place in a glass cube living room in the middle of a tropical looking garden. It's like a man-made room in the middle of nature. So you can see how this is very symbolic of home birth, because obviously the whole idea of when a woman gives birth at home is that she's in this primal element where she can feel relaxed, that one with nature. What this location represented was the term salle sauvage, which means primitive room. The strange thing about this series is that right from the off I found myself having these visions for every one of them, and the first vision I had was a woman who's very animal-like, almost climbing the walls in her Amazonian energy of birth, like a savage kind of woman. And I just shot with a model called Gina Harrison on an avant-garde beauty shoot where she does these crazy facial expressions, and it's funny because while I was shooting her I thought, oh, she could be the woman who gives birth. Let's ask her, do you want to give birth for me? The night before the shoot I was just thinking, what the hell am I doing? I've planned this shoot, I've arranged the BTS guys to come, I'm going to be spending more money than I've ever spent on something that's high risk, and the next day was just absolutely awesome. From shooting fashion models for years and seeing pictures of women looking beautiful and sexy and young and feminine and all these things, but never really quite powerful. That is what this series is all about. People going, whoa, when they see these images, because that's what I want to put out there, this new imagery showing just the whole wonder and the emotions and textures of childbirth. I think that we're starving for images like this. The inspiration for the next scene, it just clicked for me one day when I was looking through my books. I mean, it's calling to me to be made into a picture, and as far as I could see, no one had done it before. The scene is set in about 1911, and a young Dr. Grantley Dick Reed is being called to a poor woman in a squalid bedroom in the East End of London who's in labour. And he offers chloroform to her, but she refuses and carries on without it. And afterwards, when he asks about it, she replies with a line that he'll never forget. She says, "It didn't hurt, it wasn't supposed to, was it, doctor?" And he theorises what he calls the fear, tension, pain syndrome, and publishes Childbirth Without Fear in 1942. Whatever kind of birth a woman wants today, the thing we can learn from Dick Reed is the importance of women being educated about birthing hormones and listening to their wishes at their bedside. And wanted to create a scene that really shows his fascination with this woman and a moment of power and tenderness holding her newborn baby. Another picture that's full of a lot of detail and texture. And then from there, I wanted to create an image that was inspired by an idea in my own mind. I wanted to portray the term fetal ejection reflex. And this sounds like a complex term, but it just basically means a spontaneous birth. But the fetal ejection reflex is basically what happens when a woman is undisturbed. Now, what's interesting is that in our culture, most of the time we only see this when a woman gives birth accidentally, maybe on the way to hospital or at home, unplanned. And so what I wanted to do is create a scene where she was still undisturbed, but she'd just come out into an environment of the outdoors. And so I spent quite a few weeks looking around at all the houses in my area, trying to find a flowery porchway and a driveway that would suit the logistics of how I wanted this composition to be. This one in particular was very inspired by cinema. It didn't dawn on me straight away when I was designing this series of the obvious opportunity we have to portray most famous natural birth in the history of time, Son of God himself, the most primal birth probably in culture. But it's funny how I started to look at images of the nativity and didn't really see anything that portrayed the actual birth of Jesus. People probably would say that was for good reason. We don't have an easy time looking at images of birth in our culture, nor of religious icons naked. So I tasked myself with recreating the nativity, depicting Mary giving birth. Not just giving birth, but I wanted her to be portrayed in a moment of passion and ecstasy, something that didn't look entirely unpleasant. And I also wanted to shoot it in a way that was inspired by religious paintings themselves and kind of devotional tungsten tone to the image. So we actually shot this one in Tuscany in a stable. It's probably going to polarize the audience. Some people will love it, some people will hate it, some people might be angry with it, but I don't see anything offensive with it myself. It's something that's so ordinary and something that I think we need to see more of. We need to normalise normal birth.